Fish on First has partnered with About the Fans to launch a merchandise collection. Rep the FOF logo and more Marlins-inspired apparel. Find it all at aboutthefans.com. Enter coupon code FOF10 at checkout to get 10% off your order. FOF10 for a 10% discount.
This is Griffin Conan. You're watching Fish on First Live.
FOF Live on a Friday night. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Our usual series preview show here on Fish on First, heading into every Marlins season series opener, series number 5, starting homestand number 2 right here, presented by About the Fans. They are our merch partner, aboutthefans.com. You can see our collection right near the top. Hats, polos, t-shirts, soon to be Fish on the Farm hats as well, included in there. Alex Carver is with us. Alex Krutchik is with us. He's at Lone Depot Park for the series opener. Special guest, super sub, Mr. T-Bone Malone, checking in as well. Thank you
for having me.
A whole lot to cover that has popped in during the day. I'm hosting this one instead of our usual guys. And as the itinerary has changed a lot in the last few hours with all these injury updates, most of them good, one of them bizarre. As usual, we're going to start quickly with the previous series. The first one that I've been able to attend this year, being our New York correspondent. Marlins losing 2 out of 3, but finishing the series on a very high note with a shutout win over the Mets. I was there for the middle game of that one, the 10-5 loss to the Mets, where they actually went out to an early lead. Questionable bullpen management by Mr. Clayton McCullough in that one led to their undoing in those middle innings. And then, Pete Alonso wreaking havoc on the Mets, all things considered. But it was good to cover the team, be at the ballpark. First time being around McCullough in a capacity since he began on this stint with the Marlins this year, the rookie manager. And as I alluded to, that ended on a very high note in that series finale. Max Meyer taking a no-no into the 6th inning, picking up his first win of the season. We talked about Max quite a bit on the previous stream, Carver, and we were pretty hopeful about his adjustments sticking moving into the start and beyond. And this was, gotta say, his best start as a big leaguer thus far. So, I mean, as high as our expectations may have been for this outing, this was incredible for him to do that against that Mets lineup.
Yeah, still not much sweeper, but a lot more sinker to go along with the slider, which, of course, as we know, is, I would say, an 80 grade pitch. Still lived off slider, which is fine. Changeup was still good. But, man, the incorporation a bit more of sinker to me was most encouraging, and I think keeping guys off balance with changing eye level. So really good. Solid. Fastball was also good. He was up to 96, 97, which is good. Still want to see him. I think he can get even better, Eli. I really do. If he fully incorporates that sweeper, I think he's even better. So we didn't see it in this start, but, it's a new pitch for him, so he's still feeling it out. But to go against that high-powered Mets lineup and to, like you said, carry a no-hitter into the 6th inning, that's pretty special. And again, answering every question in the book on can he be a starting pitcher? The answer is yes. Max Meyer has answered that question wholeheartedly. So this is a starting pitcher. He will be a starting pitcher despite limited size. Those new pitches are to his credit, and I think he's going to be even better than this. I said that last show, but I'm going to say it again. I think he's even better than this. And that's a lot to say because he had a great start against a really good lineup. But there may be growing pains along the way. Yeah. But this is a guy who I think is continuously getting better. As long as he's healthy, he's going to be good. And yeah, the changeup as well is a little bit different, as I said here at the bottom. It's more of just a mix in now. It's more of a true pitch for him, as Locked On said here at the bottom. This is Jeremiah. That's a good point. So that pitch has improved. I think the sweeper will continue to improve. The slider's already great. The fastball's already good. The way he changes eye level, as I said, with slider fastball has always been amazing. And now that he's mixing in that sinker that he can kind of, if he has to go to it to get a soft ground ball out, that's awesome. So I really like this pitcher. I've liked this pitcher for a long time. And I think he's even better than this. So a true starting pitcher, he's answered those questions for me.
They don't win that final game without some run support. 3 runs driven in by Matt Mervis, Krutchik. All of a sudden, this guy that looks like the weakest link in their lineup as the season started, coming out of spring training when he was striking out all the time. He's got a 900 OPS all of a sudden. So quite a turnaround that all of a sudden, as as we'll get to, have some bats coming back from the IL, but Mervis's spot seems pretty secure in the middle of this lineup, doesn't it?
Yeah, Mervis definitely bought himself a little bit of time because he was a candidate to either be sent down or be DFA'd once these guys come back, once Jesus Sanchez comes back, once Connor Nolte comes back. I think he bought himself some time because even some of his outs were pretty loud. I'm forgetting now if it was against the Mets in New York or if it was against the Mets down in Miami, but he had some pretty good swings on balls that wound up being outs. He's bought himself a little bit of time. I'm excited to see if it continues when he gets back here. Not in the lineup tonight. He did say the ball flies out to right field here at Lone Depot when we spoke to him at the beginning of spring training. It hasn't happened for him so far, but now that he's found his groove a little bit, we'll see if that happens when he gets back in there.
Yeah. A whole lot to get to now moving forward that we won't spend another second on the previous series. Go to the news, probably the biggest item today, and there's a lot of them, but Nick Fortes, who has been off to a very good start this year when he's been healthy. He was dealing with something a little in spring training. He had what was called a neck problem like last weekend in Atlanta, and now it turns out an oblique strain for Fortes. The corresponding move is even more interesting than Fortes being out, but still, this is their starting catcher, their veteran catcher, who now has basically the same injury that both Sanchez had and the one that Norby had, another oblique strain right here. But T-Bone, I want to go to you on your thoughts about Fortes, who the last couple of years has been it's been a head scratching issue where all of a sudden somebody that looks like he had good offensive potential all of a sudden was a defense only guy. And now early on this year playing really well, but now he's going to be without him for an extended period of time. Probably the biggest injury he's had so far in his Marlins career.
Yeah, it's kind of how it happens, right? Right when he gets hot, he gets injured. But I think even now that you mentioned that, Jake Berger had the oblique issue going to last year. So unfortunate, especially I was really happy for him, seeing him coming up with some really big extra base hits. I was listening to the Small Pod this morning talking about Augustine Ramirez. When they first traded for him, everyone was saying Augustin, but interesting how that happens. Of course, today is when they get that extra year of control. I'm not sure if he's quite ready, listen to what you were saying, but definitely a bummer. Like I said, really good, everything I hear about Nick is, positive things, and he seems like a hard worker, and just really happy to see balls falling for him, him hitting it hard. I think even going back to last year, you were saying he oddly, statistically, at least the way he was hitting the ball wasn't getting the results that you would expect. Kind of turned around, but now going to be a stint on the injured list. So disappointing, but that's the roster management. We'll get to see what old Pete has in store for some interesting moves that might happen.
Yeah, let's get to the Rob Brantley angle of this, Krutchik, because we were cracking up about it in our own chat about how bizarre it is. A guy that played in the majors for the Marlins 12 years ago is all of a sudden back in the majors with the Marlins 12 years later. As far as we could tell, this is unprecedented, right? I can't think of other examples from other teams where a guy has these separate stints completely opposite ends of his career. All of a sudden he's back in the bigs as like a 35-year-old.
Yeah, it's a longer span between appearances. Once he actually makes an appearance, it'll be a longer span between appearances than Albert Pujols with the St. Louis Cardinals. That's about as long as I can find. I don't know if there's a longer one. We threw around the names Brad Penny. I totally forgot that he came back to Miami in 2014. The last time he pitched here was in 2004, so that's a 10-year gap. Juan Pierre was last year in 2005. He came back in 2013. Yep. 8-year gap. So Rob Brantley's the longest that I could find, not just with Miami, but with anybody. I don't know if that's actually the case, but that's the longest that I can find.
Yeah, people got to keep these fun facts coming about how crazy this is. I will share and retweet all the ones I can find about everything that's been changed. I'll go ahead, Carver, on this same subject, just how weird it is that he's back. You probably remember him. That was like the very, I mean, I guess it's not, he even predates your Marlins prospect coverage when he was a prospect with the Marlins and just breaking through. But he was, man, at the very beginning of the Miami era, he was playing and bounced around a lot, hung around. You saw him in spring training, but didn't you think he was kind of just there as a glorified coach? The fact that he's actually now playing games for this team.
Yes. To answer your question, hasn't played a game in AAA for the Marlins since he's been back. It's been Augustin Ramirez basically every day. Hasn't played a game. So his last game played in a uniform was in spring training. So he's had all that time to sit and think about what's going to happen with his career. And now he finds himself back on the Miami Marlins somehow. It's no knock on him. He's had a decent career as a catcher. But, I mean, as you said, Eli, I thought this was a guy that came in just to catch guys. You need more than 2 guys or 3 guys even to catch guys in spring training. I thought that was going to be his ceiling as a Marlins player rejoining them. And now he's going to catch a game tonight and probably a few more, I would say, while Fortes is dealing with this injury. Hicks, we'll see. I mean, I figured that maybe it would be him that would start this game, but apparently not. I guess it's going to be Rob, but it's cool to see him back. I mean, this is a blast from the past for me. Like you said, Eli, it's kind of a guy that, I kind of knew from my time spent in San Diego. He's from San Diego. He went to UC Riverside. I kind of know him from those times when I was a much younger kid. So I know him from then. I know him from joining the Marlins and being on the Marlins. And I was also pretty young then. So it's been a long time since the orange uniforms that we've seen this guy in a major league game and with the Marlins. And now we're going to see him again tonight. And okay, I really don't know what else Augustin has to really do other than continuing to improve as a catcher. But you figured with the direction of this team, they've saved that year of control, as you printed earlier, and he still can't get his shot. And they're going to this guy who is much past his prime and 36 years old, 35 years old. I'm 38, so I guess, or they're almost 38. So I guess it's cool to see that an older guy can still make it in Major League Baseball with the Marlins, but this is totally against the direction of the franchise. I would be interested to ask what else Augustin has to do. And I would guess the answer would be continuing to improve defensively, which is fair. But, this is a team that's not expected to do much more. I would say they would be expected to do more, and it's no knock on him, but with where he is in his career, I think they could do more with Augustin as a member of this roster versus Rob Brantley. But that's fine. That's why we're not in charge. I think we'll see Augustin still later this year, but I think this was a prime opportunity to call him up. They didn't do it.
Yeah. Brantley really does shift the mean for the average age of this Marlins roster, unfortunately. Now 35, he turns 36 in July. I don't think he's going to be on this roster into July. He would hope that this is only a short-term thing. And as somebody else previously wanted to confirm, yes, he is from the Anibal Sanchez trade in 2012. That is, Danny may have something to say about that because Anibal had obviously a very good career from that point forward. And Brantley has, I guess, now outlasted him by a little bit in the big leagues. But man, I did not expect to see him on that much. And if you just look at his usage through the years with Brantley, he gets to the big leagues with various teams, but for never more than a week or 2 at a time. For the entire year he played, he did not play. He played 3 games in the majors last year with the Rays. He did not play in 2023. In 2022, he played 1 game with the Yankees. In 2021, he played 6 games with the Yankees for the entire year. The year before that, with the Giants, 1 game. So that tells you what other teams think of him. You have to assume the Marlins are going to handle it similarly. So the question is whether that reinforcement, that next man up, is going to be Augustin Ramirez from AAA in the coming days or weeks, or is it going to be Brian Navarreto? He might make another comeback. Only 5 years between his Marlins tenures. If he comes back up, he was in the COVID season. For people don't remember, it's a tough spot. We were talking about this as like the weakest position on the roster entering the season. the Hicks and Fortes combo got off to a better than expected start, and now it looks pretty vulnerable again because they are putting a whole lot of responsibility in Hicks's hands as a rookie.
Now, Reto was after Cervelli went down, right, with the concussion.
I think so. Yeah.
In this save, but yeah, I just wanted to say hi to everybody. AK here. I look. Yeah.
He's a big fan.
Hey, Jeremiah.
We're letting Fish on First fans in the press box.
I'm a huge Fish on First fan. I'm a huge Fish on First Jeopardy legend. And yeah, just looking forward to it.
Do you have any serious predictions while you're on here with who's going to win?
I think the Marlins will win 2 out of 3 here. And as the MVP of the series, I will have Sandy Alcantara because he does really well against the Nats. Yeah.
He's got dad power.
What?
He's got dad power.
He's got dad power now.
Strength.
And girl dad power. So yeah, it's really good. And yeah, he's gonna give all the Venezuelans tomorrow a good show with Venezuela. So this is Danny weekend here at the ballpark.
Yeah, Venezuelan Heritage Night tomorrow for anybody that's
It's for Francisco Cervelli weekend. Tonight it's Italian.
Oh yeah, Francisco Cervelli weekend, Italian, Venezuelan. So yeah, that's really good. But yeah, I just wanted to say hi. You guys are the best, and I love you.
Love you too.
We're just letting everyone up here. I don't know who that was. Did you say that Rob Brantley was a former Ray? I think that's why Hendricks brought him here.
For 3 games last year, he was with the Rays. He spent more of that time in AAA. Yeah, man, this is his career. Very interesting one. But overall, this is going to be his 10th big league season. Never would have expected that. Parts of 10 big league seasons for this guy. Unreal. Yeah. So anyway, as T-Bone very generously plugged, I did bring the small pod back conveniently today, and inconveniently, like hours later, it's kind of out of date a little bit, just because that was assuming that Augustine was still blocked by Fortes and Hicks. That's and that reminds me, why I wasn't devoting too much time to podcasting in recent weeks in the first place, because you put in that effort and then all of a sudden things changed quite a bit around it. Nonetheless, I am going to try to bring that back most weekday mornings, wherever you get your podcasts, either here on YouTube or subscribe to Fish on First, wherever you get your pods. And I'll be going into various subjects on there. So I did want to get to some of the other guys that are now on the verge of returning. I don't like to look too far ahead with those guys until they begin rehab assignments. And all of a sudden we have Jesus Sanchez on a rehab assignment, Declan Cronin on a rehab assignment, and it's going to be Connor Norby on one himself in the coming days. But let us start with Sanchi, because he started last night for the Jumbo Shrimp. He played the whole game at DH. He got a couple hits. He even stole a base. He's on the verge, it seems like. I would expect him to play 2 of the next 3 days in Jacksonville, and then potentially the next series he's back on the roster. So we might as well touch on it here. I want to hear from you, T-Bone, in terms of, how much does this change things? Because the outfield for this team has actually been good for the first couple of weeks of the season, especially defensively. And now Sanchez is the guy that has the experience. He's the guy that at times has looked like he's shown great upside as a hitter when things are going right. But yeah, are you, even though it's like, it seems like good news to get him back, it shakes up what had been actually one of the strengths of the team so far this season.
Yeah, it's always tough, because it's in the sense that you like seeing guys like Griffin Conine getting their chances, getting reps at the major league level. But it's kind of funny seeing Sanchez, and he feels like, on this young team, it's like he's the veteran coming back. Definitely excited to see those exit velos coming off Sanchi's bat. Missed those. Unfortunately, a lot of them ended up being ground outs like last year, but he also hit, I think, what was it, the farthest home run for the Marlins last season, which was pretty cool. So, he's got some good power behind him. Definitely excited to get him back. Again, it's, now you got to manage what to do with, some of those guys who were getting opportunities because he was out, but, excited to see him back.
Right. And it's things like this. I wrote about it on our site. What was it? Was it this morning? Things are blurring together, but like, I think it's a possibility that Conine is somebody to circle here as a corresponding move in terms of somebody that has a similar skill set as Sanchez does, but of course has minor league options to go. And like they have to make a corresponding move here. And I'm not sure what it's going to be. I think our general thought is with Norby coming back, when he does come back, he might only be a couple days behind Sanchez, that they'll probably send down Graham Pauley, who's been the third baseman in the meantime, but could use more time at AAA. That seems to be pretty likely. But in this case, it could go in a few different directions where it depends how much they're going to use him in the outfield versus as DH. Like if they are going to be playing him in the corner spots a lot, then I think Conine's in trouble. If they, and I agree with what Jeremiah was putting in here and what Sean Miller is putting in here as well, that I think it makes more sense to have him as the main DH. And in that case, maybe you send down one of their current guys splitting time there, like Wagaman or Bride, both of whom are struggling. And I was just reminded today that Bride is out of options. So I think that certainly works in his favor of sticking around. But what are your thoughts about Wagaman, Carver, at this point? Because he's going to be batting cleanup tonight. I think they've been putting a lot of trust in him as a platoon guy against left-handed pitching. But to this point, I think he had one big garbage time home run on the previous homestand, and then otherwise to this point, like he seems someone in my opinion that could be kind of expendable here.
Yeah, this would be the main guy that I would say was the candidate to go down. He's been bad. Like there's no other way to put it other than this guy has been really bad. I mean, what has he gotten into? 9 games, 30 at bats. It's not walking. Strikeout rate is manageable, which is good, but there's zero contact. And from what we knew of this player and heard of this player is that his contact rates were good. He is pretty limited to just first base. So as a first baseman, you kind of do need contact skills, and he just really hasn't shown it. So I would say that Wagaman, ahead of any of those other guys that you mentioned, is the guy that should go down. Ahead of Bride, even though Bride, I don't think it's been really good either. Conine just does enough with that just raw power, plays both corner spots, decent, actually pretty good defense. He's made that star-studded catch, which was great. Plus the name Conine. I know that doesn't really count for on the field, but fans like to see that name. So especially on a team that's struggling to market. So yeah, I would say that Eric Wagaman would be the main choice for me to get demoted amidst Sanchi coming back.
I agree with you, Carver. The only thing I will say is Wagman does play third base and first base as well. He's not just a one position guy, technically, but you could still fulfill that you could still satisfy that need with Graham Pauley. Pauley's been playing pretty good third base over there, and he can also play first base, of course. And I really like what Graham Pauley's been doing at the plate as well, and I like what he's been doing in the corner. I would be very surprised if they send down Pauley just because of what he's shown so far. Because even, kind of like what I'll say with Mervis, but even more so with Pauley, is that even his outs have been really good.
Wagaman barely plays third base. It's more of a fake it. So, yeah, he's very defensively limited to first base. He can fake it at third base, you're right, but he's barely eligible there.
He made one great play in spring training that I saw, one double play that he turned against the Mets that I remember. And I was like, wow, I was not familiar with your game, but I agree, that was an anomaly.
And then also, Eli, correct me if I'm wrong with the details of Wagaman's contract, but it's sort of a two-way contract where it is set up where he can easily be sent down. How do you think that affects the decision?
Right. Yeah, exactly. Where it's kind of, he's a glorified, he's getting paid slightly more than a league minimum player would be if he gets sent down. That's the only thing, but it should be a rounding error, even for a team like the Marlins. I don't think that should dissuade them for optioning him if he doesn't really fit with the roster. But yeah, they can freely send him up and down just like they would with other guys that have options. As mentioned, Bride is one of those guys who doesn't. And so with him, he's in an interesting spot where he put up great numbers during the second half last year. I think there were plenty of people that were kind of suspicious about how legit that was. This is a front office that I think, even though you want to give credit to guys that have done something at the big league level the way that he did the second half of last year, they're also, as we know, very analytically minded, and the underlying numbers on Bride didn't support what he was doing last year. And certainly to start this year, his underlying numbers are even worse than Wagman's are. So I'm curious how actually patient they're going to be with Bride. before being willing to pull the plug, just because based on the things that they value, it does not look like he's going to be. He doesn't really seem to be close to turning it around either, right there. And that makes it all the more remarkable that they're a 500 team, even with these pretty significant weaknesses on their roster. I wanted to go back to you, Krutchik, also about some other injury stuff. I did mention that Norby, per you, is going out on a rehab assignment beginning tomorrow. How is anything else from pregame worth mentioning on that, including Dane, who made that last catch to end the previous game? As awesome as it was, it did look a little bit painful. So what is his status?
Yeah, Dane is a little bit sore, according to manager Clayton McCullough. He is day-to-day. He was walking around in a boot before the game in the clubhouse, which I was actually surprised about. Like, out of all the body parts that I was worried about when he was running towards that wall, that was the least of my concerns. But thank God it's just the foot instead of his head or his neck. He's day-to-day. I'm going to assume that he's not available off the bench, considering the day-to-day language that McCullough was using. Nick Fortes, grade 1 oblique strain. They're going to reevaluate him. They're going to reassess things in a week. He wasn't really clear, Clayton, in terms of who would get the bulk of catching duties between Liam Hicks and Rob Brantley. This is my opinion, I would think that they should just let Hicks take the bulk, considering he's kind of auditioning for staying on the team here. And I also just like what I've seen from him, even when he was, a lot of things I'm saying right now are probably better. Even when he was going 0 for 8 to start the season, I liked his at-bats. He didn't look lost out there, and it was his first 8 at-bats that he ever took as a major leaguer. I like what he's doing behind the plate. He's not winning any Gold Gloves anytime soon, but I also am not gasping for air every time the pitch is thrown out of the zone to him. I think he's doing his job very well. So I would love to see what he looks like as a full-time starter for the next 10 days.
Well, just to disagree with one point, I don't think he's auditioning to be on the team. I don't think there's a chance in hell they send that guy back. Like, they would be very, very foolish to send that player back with.
Well, I agree.
With what they have in the minor leagues, and they're still refusing to call up Ramirez. So I think they would be pretty foolish to send that player back. There's definitely room for him on this roster. And he's been solid. I mean, like, especially defensively, I think he's been decent, like, especially with blocking pitches. Probably could use to improve a little bit with the arm, maybe framing a little bit. Yeah. But I mean, it's still such a limited sample. I think he has room to grow defensively. I think he's decent defensively. He's a big body. I think he's decent. But yeah, there's room for this guy on this roster. I don't think there's a chance in hell they send him back.
Yeah,
I think people forget that, like, this guy's playing the hardest position outside of pitcher, and he looks like he belongs. Again, like, he's not making an all-star team anytime soon, but he looks like he belongs. If you told me that this guy had been playing in the majors for a couple of years, I believe you, and he's 2 weeks into this thing. It's pretty impressive for someone playing this position.
It'll be fascinating to see. A long season to go, so we'll see how it plays out. But at this point, he's on track to have one of the heavier workloads the Marlins have ever given a rookie catcher. They don't really do it very often, especially a guy that is a true rookie, somebody that skipped AA, that didn't play above AA last season and has been thrown into the fire because of some bumps and bruises. He's played the majority of their games so far, even before Fortes goes on the IL. And I do think, based on Brantley's history, and he's not getting any younger, and based on his history, for the time that he is on the roster, he is the placeholder backup guy. I do expect that the Knicks will get the majority of time for however long that they're on there together. The more interesting thing is what happens with Ramirez and how he fits into this. I don't have a great answer. For more on this, you can listen to the Small Pod, but I'm just really skeptical of him as a catcher. I love him as a hitter. And I feel like there's even a scenario where maybe this is one of those spots where you might be able to actually carry 3 catchers at the same time. If Ramirez is mainly a DH, but catches some, if Hicks catches like half the games, and if Brantley is there as the last man on the bench that catches like once a week, like that could work for some length of time. The Marlins themselves have not really done that very much at all in recent history, and that's just a temporary idea. But Ramirez is the only other catcher on the 40-man. They had to, which we should note, they had to DFA Xavier Curry just to get Brantley up there. So there was even a cost to put Brantley on the roster, as they're risking losing Curry, who to this point in his Marlins career has been really solid in terms of a long relief guy.
Yeah, this would be the exact scenario in which you would carry a third catcher because not just DH, but you could carry him at first base as well. There's no first baseman on this team that like have to have them in the lineup every day. You know what I mean? Purvis has looked good, but like I'm not worried about taking at bats or innings away from him there. Like there's no one at first base that need to be in the lineup. So they called him up and had him do catching 2 or 3 times a week. But at the same time, now that I'm talking myself through it, if you do believe in him as a catcher, do you want to call him up and have him catch 2 or 3 games a week and then play DH and first base all the other days, or would you rather have him play down the minors and really have him the catching duties 6 days a week?
Yeah, it's confusing because I don't really know what they want in the heart of hearts. Bendix will say that we see him as a catcher, developing him as a catcher, and to this point, all of his defensive innings this year have come as a catcher. But I mean, as Carver can attest to, like the primary issue is that he can't catch the ball. Like he just drops a lot of balls in a way that I don't know how many reps are going to teach you to catch a ball when you've been playing professional baseball as long as he had. That's a really big obstacle that is not going to get. It's a question of whether you're going to live with it or not. I don't know what number of reps are going to fix it at this point. And so, yeah, I am. I really don't know what's next for Ramirez because he's ready as a hitter, and it's just that there's this big divide. There's this fog over what exactly they think of him defensively, but he could help this team right now as a DH. That's all I'm saying.
I do want to go back to Hicks just for 1 second. I want to close the loop on him. I just took a quick stroll over to Baseball Savant. It's very, very small sample. Very small. He's got 3 blocks above average, which puts him in the top 97% of major league catchers. So the advanced stats say that in a very small sample size, he's doing a good job.
Right.
Like you said, Carver, like the base stealing and the holding of runners needs some work, and that seems to be a organization-wide issue.
Oh boy. All right. Where do we want to go from here? I wanted to take one quick detour on this stuff for the announcement today about the World Baseball Classic coaching staff for Team USA, just because there are some very familiar faces on here. It came out actually the day before that Michael Hill is the GM for this team, the team that made it to the championship in the previous WBC and fell short to Japan. And now their coaching staff, you got Skip Schumacher as the bench coach to Mark DeRosa, Freddie Gonzalez, the assistant manager. I wonder, I guess an assistant manager is actually a step higher than a bench coach, one way or the other. But wow. So yeah. What do we think, T-Bone? Do you think that having Skip and Freddie and having these former Marlins involved is going to get USA over the hump after falling just short in the previous tournament?
That's interesting. Seeing that is assistant manager a step above bench coach? Because I see they got 2 assistant managers there.
3.
And
they have McCann and Michael Young and Freddie Gonzalez.
Oh yeah, Michael Young. I didn't see him. Wow. And I know Holiday and Schumacher have a good relationship. From their days playing together in St. Louis. But yeah, it's interesting. I had only seen that D-Row was going to be the manager. Will it get him over the hump? It's hard to say, I guess. It kind of depends on how hard the Dominican wants it, because I feel like that's always a group that if they play to their potential, they could take everybody. Be really cool to at least see some of those real competitive games like we saw with USA Venezuela, of course USA Japan. When I think about it, I know, for example, I think Japan just like they play a lot more national games together, whereas like this group of guys, while on paper really good, it's always fun to watch, but it's not as if there's once these guys get to the big leagues that there's a whole bunch of those guys playing together, like you kind of see with I'm thinking, of course, soccer, those national teams play together a lot. And, Japan does it, which is, I think why they have so much success. But always exciting, when we get those big games down at Lone Depot, especially, the international crowd. I remember that, I think it was Puerto Rico. It was either Venezuela or DR. I wasn't there, but I saw the videos, and it just looked, like a really cool experience down at the park.
Yeah, for anybody that is not aware, it is coming back to Lone Depot just like it was the previous time, where they're hosting every single round, including the semifinals and the championship once again in 2026. So that is less than 11 months away from the start of that tournament down in Miami. Let us get a little bit into this series now, between the first meeting with the Nats this year, the team that the Marlins dominated for a couple of years running, and then last year all of a sudden the script was completely flipped the other way around with yeah with let's get that on the big screen. There we go, for this series opener. Last year the Nats winning 11 out of 13 against Miami head to head. Starting with on the Marlins side, Krutchik, it looks pretty similar to what we've been accustomed to recently, where a lot of platooning going on. They're facing a lefty starter for the first time in a while, so that gets Wagaman in there. That has Jonah Bride in there, Javier Sanoja in there. Otherwise, a lot of the regulars going up and down to this point. But let's see, among guys that we haven't already covered, I guess. I don't know. Anything that draws your attention about that lineup beyond some of the guys we already touched on?
Nothing stands out about the lineup itself, but now that certain guys that we were speaking of before, like Connor Norby and Jesus Sanchez, now that they're knocking on the door of coming back, I think that this is going to be a massive few days for Javier Sanoja, because we know how versatile he is in the field, and we know that the Marlins love versatility, but at some point he has to hit at least a little bit. He's got to do just enough to stay in the lineup, and right now he's not doing that, which is very disappointing because he did okay last year in his very short cup of coffee. This year I'm just not seeing it. Hopefully it's just a little bit of a slump to start the season, but he needs to start hitting at least just a little bit. Just show us a little bit of something before the other guys come
back. I can't get past the fact that Eric Wagaman's sitting as a fourth hitter in this lineup. That is a porous decision by Clayton McCullough. That's bad. I mean, that's just bad. This guy is not performing. He has an 85.1 mile per hour average exit velocity. Other than your leadoff hitter, Xavier Edwards, who doesn't have power, and we all know that, at least not this year. He had a little bit last year. Still, that's not his game. And that's fine for him. But to have Eric Wagaman, your DH, that is in there only to hit, as your fourth hitter in the lineup is a horrid decision by Clayton McCullough. That's really bad.
Yeah, for me, I'm continuing to be very compelled by what Stowers is doing to this point, where he's hitting the ball hard. To this point, I think he hit a home run in the second game of the season and hasn't done so since. It's really been more about the walks ever since then with him. You see that a 17% walk rate for Stowers. That's what he was doing well in spring training, and I kind of rolled my eyes at it in terms of it being meaningful. And to his credit, it is carried over into the real games as well, where he's at a point where he's getting on base as well as anybody in this lineup, and that's why he's in there against a lefty. I'd mentioned before that I think Conine is more susceptible to a demotion than Stowers is, in part because Stowers can play center field, and in part because he, to this point, is showing that he can work really deep counts and quality at bats and get on base, even if the bat itself is still a little questionable. So this is a huge opportunity for him to solidify his spot. They face a lefty tonight. They're going to face another one in the final game of this series, Mackenzie Gore. We will get to that because he has been a popular series MVP pick from the predictions that I've already collected to this point. But going over to the other side, first matchup with the Nats so far this year, who come into the series below the Marlins in the standings to this point, and they have some extremely young guys. Now that I look at it, it is a pretty interesting mix between guys at both ends of their careers. Got Josh Bell right in the middle of that. This is his second stint with the Nats, and he's been playing close to every day. Of course, he was on the Marlins for the better part of a year between 2023 and the first half of last season as well. I did want to get your take, Carver, about James Wood and Dylan Cruz being the prospect guy, because both of those guys were, once they at the point of their debut, they were really in the inner circle of elite prospects at their position at the times, and they're kind of going to this point in opposite directions, where James Wood had more good than bad last year as a rookie, and now he's he might be their best overall player, whereas Dylan Cruz is really slumping to begin this season. So in terms of, are those two guys that you think are both going to eventually click and figure it out, or do you think are there any concerns about what Cruz has shown in a small sample in the big leagues to this point?
There is. I don't care how small the sample is. This is a 23-year-old. So it's not like this is a 20-year-old, 21-year-old kid. He's 23. I think he has all the talent in the world, and he's where he is in prospect rankings for a reason. But, man, he has been one of the worst players in baseball. There's no getting around it. I think he's been probably the worst player in baseball, like full-time player. Really, really, really bad. A 40% strikeout rate, which is in the 4th percentile, which is just porous. 25th percentile for whiff, 17th percentile for chase. He's just swinging at everything, dude. He swings at everything. So it's just really, really bad with swing decisions, really porous with swing decisions. Really think he's having a struggle translating minor league success to major league success, which can happen, and we understand that. But at this rate, it's hard to see. So is this the prospect the Nationals thought they were getting? I think that's a question that we can start asking if this kind of performance permeates probably into next month. I still think it's too early to say that the Nationals should be out. I think it's way too early to say they should send him down. I think they should give him a couple more series. If this permeates into next month, they could probably talk about a demotion to AAA for him. James Wood, man, that's a guy that struggled last year, as you said, and has turned it around and is probably one of the best players in this lineup. So I think what the Nationals hope is that pure talent and pure raw talent permeates, as did with James Wood, and will be the case with Mr. Dylan Cruz. I think it's possible for Cruz, but man, he's going to need a stark and complete turnaround because this start has been very bad for him.
Quickly, want to hear from Krutchik before he gets out of here and sends the game. I thought that his selection of Keibert Ruiz in our staff fantasy league was one of the worst picks that was made so far. And early on, he's making you look pretty smart. He's got 934 OPS. He's been amazing as their catcher so far. So quickly, kudos to you on that. Sorry for making you feel bad about it. To this point, it's looking like a smart move.
Yeah, thank you. Sometimes I also have Matt Mervis on my team. Just a lot of diamonds in the rough. Let's see. If you want my prediction for this series.
Yes, go ahead.
I do think the Marlins are going to take 2 of 3. I think they're going to leave this series above 500 for the season. And I think that the MVP is going to be Edward Cabrera. I think that he's going to have one of those starts where he comes out and pitches 7 shutout innings. Actually, with this coaching staff, maybe 5 shutout innings. 1 walk, 1 hit, and we're all going to wonder if he's been fixed. So that's me, my MVP. Marlins 2 out of 3.
Very good. Thank you, Krutchik. Call him for coverage throughout tonight.
Oh, hey, Isaac.
Isaac is going to pinch it for him the final segment of the show.
Well, hey, Alex.
All right, see you later. Thanks
a lot.
7 shutout innings, huh? I don't think, has Cabrera ever? Yeah, he has, I guess. So he's gone close, but wow.
Well, what I remember vividly is he made his major league debut against the Nats way back in 2021. He carried it like a shutout into the 7th inning, and then he gave a couple hard hits. Maybe he gave a home run or 2, and he got like a no decision and allowed a couple runs. I do remember in his debut, he faced the Nats and was good the first couple times through the order against them. This is a chance we should mention Eddie. Eddie is back. Sandy is back from the paternity list on 10 days rest. So that's going to be interesting to watch after having bring his baby girl into the world at the start of this week. Let's get your thoughts on Eddie, Isaac, now that you hop in, where he suffered his annual spring training injury. This one only a blister issue. Looked pretty good on his rehab assignment, but not fully stretched out yet. Krutchik was joking about the coaching staff, but in this case, he only went 4 innings in his last rehab start. So I'd be surprised if he goes more than 5 in this one, just because where his pitch count is at. But now he kind of fills out their rotation for the time being. This is going to be, he's had a bunch of opportunities now to stick as a starter. This could be this might actually be the last one if he struggles. But what are our expectations of him at this point after this brief hiatus?
Yeah, I know you guys probably mentioned already, but no walks in those 2 very limited rehab outings. But that seems to be the payoff with him. If he's not walking guys for some reason, even with that incredible stuff that he has, he still seems to finds a way to get hit pretty hard. And sometimes that would equate to giving up some long balls. But I think this time, I know we say it every time, you got to have a little bit of optimism. It's still April 11th. We are we are 12 games into the season. He's making a season debut. You have Sandy right behind him. We haven't seen him a lot. We haven't seen a lot of him under this new coaching staff, under this new regime. So I'm a little bit curious to see what he can give. I'm very intrigued to see how many innings or how many hitters or how many up and downs he's allowed to go, because I think the bullpen could really use a breather despite the off day yesterday. But I think expectations can be a little bit high. I think they're deserving to be a little bit high. I know the spring performance was absolutely dreadful. You can attribute it to his little fingernail issue or blister, whatever it was. But this is not, it's not an easy lineup to navigate through, but it's not the Los Angeles Dodgers, for example. So I would hope that anything more than 5 innings and less than 3 earned runs, you got to be really pleased with. Just curious to see the velocity as well.
Yeah, this comment at the bottom says all of my feelings about Edward Cabrera. And the last comment that said that, I hope that Edward is fixed. We've been saying that for 3 years. So I'm out, and I'll get to that in predictions. But yeah, I think I wholeheartedly agree with Jeremiah here that we've given way too much confidence to Edward Cabrera, and it's time to move on.
We were joking earlier in the show just about how long it's been since Brantley's previous stint on the team. And now that Isaac is joining us, it is a good time to share his tweet from a few weeks ago with Brantley that, that's basically it. That's the time difference. It's half of Isaac's life in between his stints in a way that we just haven't seen before for any team. A guy that just resurfaces at this other point in his career. We think, I guess we could add a little bit more context on Brantley. It seems like he's been around the team like these last couple of weeks, even though he was selected from Jacksonville. He's kind of just been around the big league team, right? These first couple of weeks, just in case something like this happened, and sort of being an extra coach or something.
Yeah, I'm not incredibly surprised that he was activated, but yes, he was a glorified coach all of spring training. He was getting some pretty regular reps during Grapefruit League season, but if you watch the live BPs and you watch the spring workouts, he was really helping out more than participating in drill. I'm just very curious to see what he does. I know it hasn't been that long since he's participated in major league games, but to me, I did not think this was going to happen. I know he's been on the taxi squad, quote unquote, sort of taking Johnny Paredes' role from last year and the Jorge Alfaro role from the playoff season when they had a backup catcher. But good for him. He really is a good guy. I just remember it clearly, him being part of that Omar Infante and Anibal trade. He was the offensive-minded young catcher and played a lot in 2012, was a starting catcher in 2013, and here we are 12 years later, and he's called up. Not only, this isn't a September call-up, this is in April. He's getting the shot to be the backup catcher for a Marlins team that's 6-6. So really cute story, in my opinion, and hopefully he does something cool, like hits one out in his short time in the Major League roster.
All right. Without further ado, about 10 minutes left in the show. Let us go to prediction time.
This is prediction time.
I don't want to toot my own horn here, but I'm really good at this.
Jeez.
Yeah. So this is some of the predictions I've gathered so far. It's from our super subs, our Fish on First staffers, and our live stream guests. T-Bone is like an intersection of the few. He's been submitting his as a super sub, but we'll wait in suspense for a few more minutes to get his delivered on here. Yeah, pretty split down the middle. I'd say more towards the Marlins than the Nats in terms of MVP picks. Very few expecting a sweep right here, but all over the map here with Sandy being very well rested for his outing right here. We have some faith in Mackenzie Gore, who at times has had an extremely high ceiling. We've talked about James Wood already in his hot start and his incredible potential that he has right there, but all over the map for this team that to this point has, I think, generally exceeded our expectations. We keep a track of the leaderboard on our site to this point. I think Thomas Joseph has a 1 point lead at this moment. He's usually in these streams. And yeah, we'll keep those all season long for people that are super subs of ours. So we appreciate the support that they give us throughout the season to this point. And it's pretty simple. How many games the Marlins are going to win, who the series MVP is going to be as determined by win probability added. I got the MVP right in the last series. I picked Max Meyer, and he got me a point at the very end, even though the team itself didn't win the series right here. But yeah, so I think without further ado, let me make sure that I have our background set up for this, and then got to cue the music. And then we will start with our guest first on this one. We'll go to Mr. T-Bone to deliver his wise prediction for the series.
So I had said previously 2-1 Marlins. I'm going to stick with that, although that was before I heard I said Dane Myers was going to be the MVP. That was before I heard he was in a boot. So I'm going to switch to Xavier Edwards. And I think I've been wrong on every series prediction, so hopefully they at least prove me right by winning the series this time.
Go ahead, Isaac, your prediction.
The Nationals are a scrappy team that just came off a series with the Dodgers. It's not going to be a walk in the park. I think the Nationals take 2 out of 3. The Marlins salvage the Sandy start, and I believe that Mackenzie Gore is going to strike out 12 Marlins on Sunday and be the series MVP.
Okay. Alex Carver, go ahead.
Well, I hate to be an echo, but I'm going to go the same route. I honestly think that the Nationals could sweep this series because Trevor Williams is really good against, former Marlin, by the way. Trevor Williams is really good against the Marlins. He's thrown 2 quality starts against the Marlins. However, Mackenzie Gore has thrown 3 straight quality starts against the Marlins, and in his only other start pitched into the 6th inning, and that is an absolute stud. So with poor lineups being put out by the Marlins, with Rob Brantley getting called up instead of Augustin Ramirez, with unfortunately, I guess I should say, no real help coming for this team against a team that really they did not do well against last season. This team's a lot worse. The Nationals get 2 out of 3, and Mackenzie Gore's the MVP.
All right. One of the huge weaknesses among the many weaknesses last year for the Marlins was producing against left-handed pitching. In a small sample this year, they've actually been pretty good. We should have mentioned this earlier. They're like 100 points better OPS-wise against lefties and righties. I don't think that is going to keep up to this point. They do face 2 lefties this weekend, and to echo what has been mentioned, I don't like the way that they stack up in those scenarios. The way they'll overcome it, I guess, is if they have some late inning magic, and we saw that they did during that opening series against the Pirates. I think that is their only hope of surprisingly snagging this series and staying ahead of the Nats. I don't think they will. I will go with the Washington Nationals taking 2 out of 3 by shutting down this Marlins offense. Old friend Josh Bell, let him be the MVP. Got off to a slow start last season, off to a slow start this season, but I think he starts to turn it up right here and hits at least 1 home run against his former team to help the Nats take 2 out of 3 in Miami. All right. Those are our predictions. There's still 17 minutes left for super subs. If you want to submit them on the site or in our Discord channel, you still have time to do so before first pitch. I'll be sure to count those. Other than that, this has been our show with Isaac, Alex Carver, special guest T-Bone, Eli Sussman. We had Alex Krutchik with the press box report earlier. And this team very soon is going to look quite a bit different once you get all those guys back from rehab. But I think they're a little vulnerable in this particular moment, leaning a little bit too much on Rob Brantley, which is to say that they have Rob Brantley on their roster. So I think that is a little bit too much. But congrats to him on his patience. And I hope that intangibly he has a good effect on this young team while he's around them to this point. We'll have another show here heading into that next series on Tuesday. And I promise I'll do my best in terms of churning out small pods on most weekday mornings. I think on Monday I'll have a small pod about do a prospect spotlight and a couple guys at each level that I'm intrigued about. So look forward for that wherever you get your pods. But thanks everybody for your support of what we do on Fish on First. Enjoy your weekend and go fish.
Have a wonderful evening.